Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It is a sunny, bright March day here in suburban Chicago. Things are still pretty hustle and bustle despite the COVID-19 outbreak. I guess I don't know that for certain we've had any confirmed cases in LaGrange, which is the community I live in. The kids are still in school, although I would be surprised if they are still in school next week, and frankly, I'm not sure I would let them go even if the school officials haven't called off. So part of my thinking about it is that I'm going to have less time to record the podcast, ironically, because I won't be walking anywhere, although I guess I could take walks. Nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. So in that regard, I thought I would record an episode, which probably won't come out till mid next week. So if these questions feel a little dated, or the commentary here feels a little dated, that's why. I'm recording on Friday, March 13th. So I thought today I would do an episode that I find particularly enjoyable to do, although I have yet to get much feedback about them, so I'm assuming they're at least tolerable, because I haven't had anyone message me saying, these are dumb, stop doing them. So if you feel like they're dumb and I should stop doing them, let me know. If you like them, and you hope I do them as often as I have or more, let me know that too. If you're indifferent, feel free to continue expressing your indifference by being indifferent. So this is The Geek Asks. For those of you new to the podcast, The Geek Asks is a segment where I scroll through the general gaming forum of Boardgame Geek, and I act as though the subject lines of the forum posts are actually direct questions that have been posed to me. And rather unhelpfully, instead of posting those answers to the forum where the people asked the question, I just give the answer to you here. So I think they're amusing to do, and I have fun doing them. So here you go. So The Geek asks, point salad, bad or good? I like the game point salad quite a bit. It's a really interesting set of decisions in a really tiny box. It plays fast, you can teach it easily, and it goes up to 6. Excellent game all around. Point salad, good. Here comes the Zoom. All right. Is Geek and Sundry dead? Question mark. Not that I know of. Last I saw, their Game the Game show, which might not be called that anymore, was still relatively popular with Becca Scott doing regular playthroughs and fun stuff. Feels like they had a number of other shows, but I haven't looked at them in a while. I guess they could be. I don't know exactly what the person's talking about. I'm ignoring threads that are not questions. So there are some here that seem like they would be interesting discussion topics. But this is called The Geek Asks, not The Geek States. So, what do you do when you see people getting rules wrong? Oh, I remember reading this thread. This is an interesting question. If you see people at a game group getting rules wrong, do you intervene and tell them they're getting the rule wrong? Do you just let them play it and tell them after? This is, I'm assuming here, when you see people getting rules wrong, you don't mean in a game you're playing. In a game I'm playing, I would happily correct somebody. In a game I'm not playing, it's an interesting question. Because maybe they know they're getting the rules wrong and they like getting it wrong. Maybe they're in their own little vibe and they don't want some random weirdo popping his head in and saying, excuse me, you're playing that wrong. So, but I think about my circumstance. Say I'm playing a game at Boardgame Geek Club and somebody walks by, assuming they're nice, assuming they're not just, hey, you're doing that wrong, but they say it in a nice way like, oh, I didn't realize that, or hey, watching you play here, it seems like you're doing that differently than I've always played it. I always played this way. So part of it is tone, but generally I would prefer to be corrected rather than not corrected, because I'd rather play the game correctly. Now that could actually mess up the play of the game itself. If we're halfway through and we discover we're doing a rule wrong, it's really hard to walk it back, depending on the rule. But in general, I would rather play it correctly than incorrectly. That said, thinking about how one says that, I remember the thread had a number of bits of good advice. One was, "Oh, we've always played it a different way. I haven't seen that rule played that way before." Or, "Hey, do you mind if I check the rule book? That is a different way than I've always played." Or just, "Pardon me." One thing I saw was interesting. "Pardon me, just walking by and listening to your play, it seems like you're playing one of the rules wrong. Do you want to know what it is?" Which I think actually is not my favorite way of intervention, but an interesting one. So a variety of different options for how to play the game correctly. I like that. Let's see. Do you still play military board games? I never really did, but occasionally. I have a neighbor who enjoys Axis and Allies quite a bit, so I've played that a few times. And I played plenty of Warhammer in my day, so playing Warhammer isn't something I've done recently, but yeah. Games that will soon be out of print and should be bought soon? ? That's an interesting. I don't think that's a thing. I guess if there's a game you've had your eye on for a long time and you learn that it's going out of print, that would be the one. But I think all games are always on the verge of going out of print, with the exception of a game that has demonstrated through time that it's going to be evergreen. You should assume most hobby board games are on their last printing. So, especially if it's only had 1 or 2 printings, don't assume it's going to get another one. That said, I think when you have the money to buy a game you want to buy, you should buy it. And don't worry too much about missing games, because there's tons of new games coming out every year, and I've generally found that the new games are as good or better as anything in the past. There are plenty of games from the past that are really, really good, and I wouldn't say don't buy older games. I'm just saying that new games are generally built on the shoulders of those older games. In this way, I certainly, my idea about this certainly lines up with Rado. He says basically the same thing. So don't worry about it too much. Let's see. Worst Kickstarter ever? ? Probably is. If my experience of that thread is his thing. Speeding up turn exchange. Dropbox the solution? ? This must be a play by email forum or comment thinking about how to play asynchronously. And I guess like Dropbox would work, because you're passing information back and it updates automatically and notifies you that you have an update if you have the settings right. I don't know how that's faster than email, but okay. Tabletop MOBA games list ? I presume this person wants a list of games that feel like MOBA games and are tabletop games. Sure, that sounds nice. I don't know, that is not a genre that I find particularly interesting, but I've never played those games. They came out after I stopped playing video games with any regularity, so it's not a genre I've tried. So a tabletop version of a genre I've never tried is not really a thing that's going to attract me very much. But, you do you, dude. Or dudette. When did long games become a bad thing? ? I don't think they are a bad thing, period. I don't know. Having not read the thread, I can't really say what they're reacting to, but there does seem to be a number of reviewers or other things that have commented that games are too long, but I wouldn't say that's a new experience. That's a new expression. I think people have always thought some games are too long and have disliked long games. That's just a part of life. People dislike long games. Or some do. But to say that long games are a bad thing, look at the top 10 on Boardgame Geek. Almost all of those are long games. Gloomhaven, long game. Pandemic Legacy, not the longest game, but easily takes an hour to an hour and a half to play in a given setting, and it is a campaign game. Through the Ages, I think, is still in the top 20, if not in the top 10. That's a long game. Terraforming Mars is in the top 10. That is a very long game. You have to be pretty experienced to come in under 3 hours with old Terraforming Mars and more than 2 players. So I deny the premise of the question. All right. Have you played Betrayal at House on the Hill remotely? Question. Tips needed. Oh, that's my thread, so I'm not going to answer that one. I do need tips though, because trying to figure out what to do with my students. RIPFFG sleeves? Question mark. I assume that Fantasy Flight Games has stopped making game sleeves. Unique board game box sizes and materials. Love it or hate it? Question mark. Hate it. Now, I agree, and I think my game shelf is a testament to the idea that there is no standard box size. Different companies have box sizes they tend to use. There are some box sizes that are more common than others, but there is no standard. So that's different. But unique board game box sizes and materials, I don't really like that. I don't want a game that doesn't stack properly and isn't one of the main game sizes. And I don't want a tin. I don't know. Different people enjoy different things, but I have yet to have a game where I was happy that it came in a weird size or weird shaped box. Question. Looking for good hidden objectives / multiple win conditions / hidden scoring games? Question mark. I'm not sure what they're asking for. Are they looking to have people help them develop those things, or they're looking for games that do that? So hidden objectives, multiple win condition, hidden scoring. Good hidden objective game. Social deduction games, The Resistance. Multiple win condition game, Scythe. Hidden scoring game, I'm going to say Nanty Narking. There you go. One of each, dude. Or dudette. I gotta stop saying that. World War II naval miniatures. What's the best and where to get? I don't know. That's an interesting question. I might track that sub just to find out what people do to buy World War II naval miniatures. Who knew that was a thing? What are the best board games that promote the emancipation of women? Question mark. I guess that I'm not sure what you mean. If you mean promote feminist ideals, I don't know that I can think of any per se. There are certainly board games that have strived for more equal representation or more thoughtful representation of people generally, and usually that means thinking more about including women, including trans people, including basically anybody who's not a white dude, a cis white dude. But games that actively promote the emancipation of women, boy, I don't know. I mean, you could say through satire, Ladies and Gentlemen does some of that work, but you could play Ladies and Gentlemen and not understand the satire. Maybe Legacy of Dragonholt. Legacy of Dragonholt is certainly the most progressive game I've played in terms of its view of gender roles and relationships. Not really a tabletop game, though. It's more of a TTRPG, a tabletop role-playing game, or even just a storytelling, choose-your-own-adventure type game. Not really a board game at all. Nonetheless, I'll say that. Legacy of Dragonholt. Which game has the worst-looking miniatures? Yeah, I don't know. Zombies, 3 exclamation points, are pretty cheap. Organizing larger game nights and events, question mark. I would say in the moment of the current pandemic, don't do that. I unfortunately had to cancel my Saturday night game night. I had 15 people or so coming, but I don't feel responsible bringing that many people together in a space and also in my house. So I had to cancel that. Very sad. Although having planned it now, I'm definitely interested in trying to schedule it again later. All right, just about out of time. Let's see if we can find one more question quick to answer. What did you play this week? Question mark. Oh, that's a good one to end on. So far this week, I haven't played a lot. I played Le Havre at Toggle Gaming, which was super fun. I talked about that in the last episode. And my wife and I played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, Queen's Park and Carlton House, Queen's Park Affair Day 2 last night. And it was fun, but like a middle season of Lost, it opened up more questions than it answered. So hopefully Day 3 solves everything and we can feel smart. It was frustrating to see how much of the book we didn't get to see, because it was a big book and there was a lot going on. But here's hoping that Day 3 will find all the answers and we'll feel better about it. Well, that's it for me. I'm out of time. So pop over to Boardgame Geek Guild 3269. Let me know what you've been playing lately or what you've been doing. How are you handling the coronavirus outbreak? Are you enjoying this segment, the Geek Asks? Any of those questions would be fine to answer, or just start a conversation. You can find me on Board Game Arena, Boitaju, and Yukata DE as Wombat929. Invite me to play a game with you. I would happily do that. Otherwise, you can reach me at Brendan at Rattlebox Games. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.